Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve with myself, Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And today it's probably just going to be the two of us. Andy's not able to join us this week. We might have some friends of the group join us. We'll see. But it's good to be back. How you been, Alex?
Good. Been doing a little bit of traveling this week, and I'm very happy to be home. I got home last night and got a pretty sweet Funko that, well, I just knocked it off of its stand. But I'll go ahead and show this off. But yeah, I got this awesome Poison Ivy Funko.
Ooh.
I as soon as I saw this Funko, I was like, I'm not buying any more Funkos right now. But then I was like, well, I'm breaking that promise, and I'm just gonna go ahead and buy one more as soon as I saw it because I love Poison Ivy. But yeah, it's from the Harley Quinn animated show, so
Nice.
sweet. Pretty sweet.
Have you watched or read anything lately?
Let's see, what have I watched? I'm a little bit behind. I haven't read anything recently, I don't think. I think I'm going through an Avatar: The Last Airbender watch right now. I'm in season 2. I always watch that show like once every 2 years or so. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but I've probably watched that show probably at least 10 times through already. So I'm watching that right now. I'm about to be in season 3. So yeah, that's not really comic related, but that's pretty much where I've been focused on. Last few weeks I've been kind of going through that and been through 2 seasons on a binge watch, kind of, when I can sit down and watch a few episodes. So
Nice. Yeah, I haven't read anything lately, but my wife the other day was talking about Heroes. And so we started a rewatch of Heroes, yesterday, because everyone, pretty much three of the 4 of us have been sick. So yesterday we kind of just had one of those days where we just binge watch TV, and we started getting into the first season of Heroes. I'm like, man, such a good show, and I believe it was a casualty of the last writer's strike, before this last one here. But yeah, we're still getting through season 1, and I was like, man, this is so good. And then my son started watching. He goes, what show is this? I'm like, you can watch it. I'm like, it's all on Peacock, so we have Peacock. Go ahead and watch it. And he's gonna start watching it now too.
That's awesome. I liked Zachary Quinto. I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Siler.
Yeah. So, I had never seen him, I don't think, in anything before that, and man, did he kill that role.
Mm-hmm.
He is he embodies that serial killer role. Yep. Straight up. He was in American Horror Story in the 2nd season. He played a villain in that. I want to say his name was Bloody Face in that. And he's a serial killer in that who kills people and
nice.
Uses their body for he makes lampshades out of them. It's crazy.
He's almost like Leatherface, but leather furniture, leather accessories.
Exactly. So it's funny. I was sitting there watching that season one time, and I was like, he is such a good serial killer. And I was like, oh, well, you've seen him as a serial killer before in Heroes. So because I watched AHS years after it came out, so I was really behind on that one when I first watched a bunch of seasons all the way through. So he's a phenomenal actor, though. He is so good.
Yeah, that's my list to watch. I haven't watched that one yet, but I know him from Heroes, and then also he played Spock in the latest remakes of Star Trek. So yeah. But yeah, good show so far. Still going through season 1. At first I was like, does Sally not have any powers at all? But I guess he had that understanding of how things work, that kind of intuitive nature.
It's
I guess you could call it
aptitude.
Aptitude or something like that. Yeah, to where he could figure out how things work, and him being the watch shop repair person, and when you first see him, he's putting that watch together so carefully. It makes a lot of sense, and but it's funny because he's like Peter Petrelli, but he's the opposite, to where Peter's the good person, Tyler's the bad person, but Peter has this can be around you and get your power, where Tyler has to go in and tinker with your head and get it inside the brain there. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very it's kind of like Dr. Manhattan. I mentioned that the other day. It reminds me of how he's a watchmaker kind of thing going on there with his story. But Yeah, I mean, like, what really freaks me out about that character in Heroes is the fact that he kills people, figures out how their bodies work, and then he can just, like, make his do that.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just so creepy. So it's like, I think by the end of the show, I don't know how many he has, but we'll just say he has, like, 35 powers or whatever, and you're just like, man, like, what powers does he not have at
Yeah.
this point? Like,
I remember he loses some, though, because there's that virus that goes out.
Mhm.
And that virus kills some of them, I think, and then takes away some of their powers. So I know he loses some, but yeah, he gets quite a bit of power. So
I think I remember him having like magnetism and stuff as a
Mhm.
power at one point, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, I mean, he's an absolute powerhouse once he figures everything out and starts, racking up that kill count. So
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. He plays it pretty well. I wouldn't mind seeing him. He also is in Hotel Artemis also, because I watched that the other night again.
yeah,
He's the Wolf King's son. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him like in a more serial killer type scary movie role on the big screen.
I want to say, and I could be wrong about this, but I think he also voices Robot Man in Invincible, if I remember correctly. So
He has that voice, for voice acting. So
yeah, he's got a great voice, and yeah, like I said, he's kind of like always been an actor that I just never realized how good he was until like I started kind of picking up on things that he was in, and I was like, oh wow, like
when we get to the news, I'm going to bring his name back up for something when we get to the news, and I think you might know what, since we said voice acting.
Okay.
But yeah, let's get into it. So in the last week, we've gotten a lot of trailers. Super Bowl happened, so there's always those big TV spots. We got Deadpool, we got X-Men '97, we got Avengers Assemble. I mean, Kong X or Godzilla X Kong, which kind of has that Avengers Assemble type moment, and all that. But let's talk about Deadpool 3. So after all the stuff, we know that Deadpool 3 is wrapped. Ryan Reynolds did that Wrexham Emmy acceptance in Deadpool costume. But we finally got a trailer at the Super Bowl. What'd you think of the trailer?
I liked the trailer. I was not worried about this movie. I mean, it's Deadpool, right? Like, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be kind of like all over the place. That's kind of like, I feel like the wheelhouse of this character. But yeah, I mean, right off the bat, they go right in with the TVA knocking on the door. I was so happy that we get to see Dopender back. I was so happy we get to see Peter. We get to see, Vanessa, all these characters back from the first two movies. And they kind of make it feel like maybe they pull him out of his universe and we may never see those characters again. That's what I was like worried about at the end of this, was like, we get like all these characters in the beginning that we're kind of teased with, but it almost makes me feel like maybe at the end of this movie, they have that line where they mention in the trailer, you can be a hero among heroes, basically. Yeah. And it shows him like all the Marvel like movies that you see like in the background on the screens and everything. And he's like looking up at all the monitors and everything, and he's kind of like nodding. I'm like, I wonder if he ever makes it back to his universe or if it ends up destroyed.
Yeah, I wonder if he does too, because it looks like Vanessa may be pregnant, maybe a child in the way. Maybe. In the trailer, possibly. Also looks like too that the TVA got some nice uniform upgrades.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, is the TVA in this the TVA before or after Loki made
exactly? Yeah.
I'm curious to see. We know that the TVA has sort of a timeline, I guess you could say, even though it's outside of time, where like things have gone and progressed forward and changed. So I'm just curious to see, like, is this kind of in the aftermath post season 2 of Loki, or is this going to be one of those things where it's just going to be like a story that happened way before maybe season 1 and season 2 of Loki or something,
unless it's during parallel or kind of like you said, during both possibly. But yeah, it looks like no Mobius. We're getting Mr. Paradox from the TVA, looks like. The villain rollout looks like it's going to be Cassandra Nova as the villain. Everyone thought that it might have been James McAvoy's Professor X because of the shape of the head and the ears. And when I saw the back, but don't think so. But yeah, interesting too. And then there's that one shot it looked like inside of the void where it looked like everyone thought it was Doom because of the mask, but that was just Pyro. We got an older Pyro from the initial X-Men movies in there. It looks like he's leading some kind of band of people possibly inside of the void.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like something's going on. And I mean, like, you can definitely, I like the idea of James McAvoy being in that that role at that time, just because we saw Patrick Stewart die in Multiverse of Madness. And if he died in this movie, and then, you know, like kind of spoiling leading into the X-Men 97 trailer, like, you know, you see like Xavier dies in that'd be kind of one of those things where it'd be like Xavier dead, Xavier dead, Xavier dead, you know? So like,
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of crazy if they did that, to kind of like move on. But yeah, I mean, like, it seems like something different is happening there. I love that we get to see that Pyro back, and they didn't, like, I guess, do a recasting
Yeah.
there. I don't know how many years ago that guy was Pyro, but I think that was the guy that was in the 12 Monkeys, if I remember correctly. And he's a great actor. I liked him a lot. So nice to see him back. There's a lot of like different little things. The Secret Wars comic that you see in one shot.
The bottle from the first Hulk movie that Stan Lee's cameo that he drank from the plant that Banner worked at while in Brazil. Also in that shot.
Yeah, I felt like there was a couple of shots too that kind of referenced back and looped back to older Deadpool movies. So like the first one being like where he's like sitting in the car, it reminded me of where he jumps through the ceiling of the roof of the car, and that one shot. And then the other one is that one where he's standing on like the highway in, I want to say, the first Deadpool movie, and all the guys are coming and he's like, wait, and he like sticks his arms up. Then he has that scene where the TVA is coming in and he like puts his hand up in this and he's like, wait, like it's like a very similar kind of like thing. But yeah, I mean, like there looks like there's got to be some great choreography in this movie.
Yeah.
Like that scene with him flipping the magazines into the gun and everything like that, and cocking the gun, like that was awesome. And I really like how they did this trailer where they take Wolverine and they just have him just be like a shadow that walks up, and then the claws are revealed, and then he steps into the shot, and then the trailer ends.
We also looks like we get the patch version of Wolverine too when they're sitting at the casino table. We see the back of that, and we don't know what actor that is. A lot of people think it's Daniel Radcliffe, you know, who's been known mainly for Harry Potter movies. I wonder if we actually get Gambit in that scene as well, because it looks like they're at a casino at a gambling table, and you know, you can't have Gambit without one of those scenes like that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's been kind of like the consensus, is everybody's been like focused on like variants of Deadpool, but not a lot of people, I feel like, are out there talking about like how many variants of Wolverine there might be in this. Like, you know, like we do see that other one, we see maybe at least 2 in the trailer, but you know, like who knows how many of those there will actually be in this movie. And I don't think a lot of people are kind of talking about that. I know it's like Deadpool and Wolverine, but you know, like who knows? Like, you know, there could be multiple Wolverine variants in this, and it would be kind of cool to see Hugh Jackman as one variant, see like Daniel Radcliffe as another, or something like that. You know,
maybe Carl Urban, you know, as one. You know,
yeah, that like you could do a bunch of different things. So I'm really curious to see what they do with Wolverine, honestly, moving forward. And then of course at the end of this movie, like where does this movie leave both Deadpool and Wolverine? You know?
Yeah, this sounds like something that's probably going to lead into, you know, further set of Secret Wars, possibly Kang Dynasty, or whatever that movie's gonna be called when it comes out. But yeah, I think this is kind of that movie that's gonna set a lot of tone for the multiverse, and maybe we'll finally hear Recursion. You know, maybe
somebody will finally mention that word.
Yeah,
that we've been waiting on forever, that we almost got in the Marvels. Almost, we were so close to getting. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see. I'm really curious to see the TVA again, because I feel like that's going to be a big indicator of where this is going. It seems like it's a very similar Loki and Mobius situation with Deadpool and Paradox, but you know, it's going to definitely be wacky, and it looks like he's killing some TVA agents throughout this movie. So it seems like he might rebel a little bit against the TVA. So
you almost wonder too if with them bringing Deadpool into this, and it looks like Cassandra Nova is the villain. If she's a threat to the TVA, if she is, this might be post Loki them, since with Kang kind of being neutralized right now. Maybe she's the one that kind of rose up after that because of that. Also, too, could she be like an associate or working with Kang or whoever the new big bad is, or possibly with the Beyonder as well? It's interesting to see too how that whole role of her being the villain in this film plays out.
she could very well just be like somebody that's like basically like put together like a group of people in the void that
Mhm.
is kind of like starting to rise back up and kind of like fight their way out. And the TVA like doesn't really know how to deal with that because maybe they're like worried about being within proximity of her and being like, they can't really like prune her there, like, so they got to kill her.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do? You send somebody in with like a messed up brain like Wade Wilson that like it's kind of one of those like characters that it's like, I mean, he's a killing machine, and plus like let's pretend it was like Charles Xavier or something like that, right? That we see briefly, like if Charles Xavier gets inside Deadpool's head, who
Yeah.
knows what he's gonna see, so I don't really know at like the extent of Nova's powers, Cassandra's powers. So maybe could you explain that? Maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm gonna have to go look it up here in a second. But back to your Professor X thing, you said that we saw, the one get killed in Multiverse of Madness, played by Patrick Stewart. Maybe we do see James McAvoy in this film get killed by Cassandra Nova, and then we're gonna have Professor X who's dead in X-Men 97. So that'd be interesting too. And while looking at the powers thing, we see the one thing flying around and looks like they're grabbing TVA agents and that kind of stuff where they're in the void. I know there's some talk that people thought it was possibly was Sauron, was it?
Mm-hmm.
The flying pterodactyl type creature possibly, but
Yeah,
I think that's Eliath,
it looks like it. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's Eliath, and we don't know what happened to Eliath post basically Loki season 1, after he remains fell, what's going to happen to Eliath.
And here's the thing too, is it could be Eliath. It could also, I don't think it's going to be this, but I would love it if it was. You see the purple kind of smoke. It'd be cool if it was like Nightcrawler or
Yeah,
something like
that'd be a
that,
good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of just popping in. But like, for me, I think that this is kind of one of those things where like, and I could be wrong about this, but going back to Cassandra as a character, I know that she's got some sort of telepathy
Yeah,
abilities.
telekinesis, all that kind of stuff. Yep.
I just don't know where it ends. I don't know if she can do like like astral stuff like Professor X and stuff like that. I don't recall that.
She
But
can. She's kind of like I don't know. Now that I think about it more, she's kind of a mix between almost Professor X and possibly Phoenix, maybe.
okay.
There's just some fire powers too, or something like that. I thought I have to look it up. I haven't gotten looking her up yet, but I got to double check.
Maybe I know she's got some of those like weird
Yeah, cosmic fire, cosmic
abilities.
fire. She has so an infernal control, so she might be able, to do some of the stuff like that, magic immunities, so forth. So she almost a cosmic version. We call her a cosmic version of Professor X, basically.
She could have just been pruned and been sent to the void and just like basically mind controlling people and building an army like that. And that's her fighting her way back against the TVA. And there's nobody better to send in to fight against a telepath than somebody whose mind is literally not right, which would be Deadpool. So it's a little bit hard to kind of pin him down. So it'd be really interesting.
From the chat here, back to the different actors and variants of Wolverine. Multiple actors playing Wolverine. Each time Wade comes across one, he dies, and Wade turns to the camera and is like, "Nope, it's not going to be him." Urban, so yeah, Carl Urban, Daniel Radcliffe, Scott Eastwood, Edgerton. What's his first name? I can't remember. The Edgerton actor from I can't remember his first name, from like the Kingsman movies, and then also Zac Efron too. Yeah, Andy would love that if we at least got a cameo of Zac Efron being Wolverine. Also, two of the TVA from the chat. Yes, Alex, the TVA send Wade into the void to take out Nova and a group of villains that she has put together to escape the void. Pyro could be a soldier for her, maybe. Yeah, and that's going to see too. We're probably going to get other characters from the Fox movies as well in the void, and maybe Deadpool, Wolverine put a team together of some of the good guys. Oh, Andy's in the chat. It's me, Andy. So Andy's here with us in the chat today. But yeah, maybe he puts a team together of the good guys, and she gets some of the bad guys in the void, and they all just go to town. So that'd be interesting too to see. I wonder if we get like a scene with either multiple Deadpools or multiple Wolverines kind of doing a meme on the Spider-Man pointing at each other meme, type of thing in this as well, because he likes to pull things from that. So yeah, definitely interesting to see of how this ends and where things end up at the end of this movie.
We get like Deadpool and Dogpool and somebody else like all pointing.
Kidpool, yeah.
That would be so hilarious and random. Yeah, I mean, like I'm very excited for this movie. It seems like it's going to be great. It seems like for that trailer, they left a lot of ambiguity out there, which I was very happy about. It seems like, you know, they kind of put Deadpool out in the trailer, kind of put the focus on him, didn't really show too much else.
Nope.
And I'm kind of glad that they did that. I mean, it seems like it's going to be funny. It's going to be very in character. I thought right off the bat when he's talking to the TVA, what he says to him when they pull out the little zap batons, like, you know, I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. I can't wait to see what they do with it. So
Yeah, and then just going back to that Secret Wars comic, you know, everyone thinks that Doom's gonna be the big bad because of the comic cover, but there's a couple different versions of Secret Wars stories out there that you could read. And maybe it does skip the King Dynasty. We don't see him and Wolverine back until Secret Wars actually happens, or maybe a project in between. They show up somewhere to recruit. I don't know.
maybe.
Any more thoughts on Deadpool before we move to X-97?
No, I will just throw this out there though, and I kind of briefly mentioned it earlier, but I'm really curious. You know, I think this movie has like some line that like rolls across the screen that's like everybody deserves a happy ending or something like that. So like I'm really hoping. I don't think this is going to be Deadpool's last appearance. Obviously, you know, like no way. This is it. But I'm like, you know, with that line, it makes me think that this has sort of a good ending for him in some way. I'm just curious to see how they do that because it seems like he gets himself in an even bigger mess than, you know, the ones that he got himself in before with everybody else. So it's like, you know, I'm really curious to see how this movie ends and what they do with everybody else. Dopinder, Peter, you know, Vanessa, Shatterstar, all those other characters, you know. So I know he went back in time and brought them back and everything like that and saved them. So this might be one of those things where like potentially like the TVA just erases them because they're not supposed to be back kind of type of thing, you know, and just or prunes his whole universe and is like, we're done with that and you don't really have a universe to go back to or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be terrible and I really hope that doesn't happen. But
Yeah, me too. Or they bring them all into this main universe of the MCU, or there's versions of them in the MCU that he has to go out and reacquaint with them.
Yeah, I mean, he could just make a deal for like Blind Al and everybody to just kind of like come on over to the main MCU and just kind of just inject them there and he would be fine. And I just kind of hope that we see Deadpool after this just kind of pop up in the back of MCU projects. Like Spider-Man's like swinging through New York, you see him on the street buying a hot dog or something, you know, just randomly in places. It would be funny.
It'd be lotus to see him pop up in Spider-Man 4.
Yeah. And you know, like just being Deadpool, he doesn't have to be. I like what somebody said a really long time ago about him taking over like Stan Lee cameos and stuff like that. That
he'd be the really perfect one to do it. Yeah, him or She-Hulk to do that, or maybe both. They, you know. From the chat here, that's what I reckon. The deal with the TVA is to save his family from an incursion. To follow up on that, and it's Taryn Egerton. Thank you, Andy, from the chat there. To clarify that, I can't remember his first name. But yeah, so interesting to see where this goes and where he comes up next. But yeah, definitely not the last time we'll see him, especially because this is the only MCU film this year. So this is probably going to be a big Spider-Man No Way Home type of outing for Deadpool. I'll share some stuff too about the trailer numbers when we get to the news. But yeah, I think Marvel's probably betting on this being a big film, and I think it'll be a big film being the only MCU film for 2024.
Yeah, I think this is going to be probably one of the biggest recent movies that they've had. I think this is going to be just like absolutely destroying the box office.
It destroyed the trailer numbers. And
it is so huge. So I know everybody's excited for this, but like kind of throwing Wolverine into the mix with Deadpool, like for 2 movies, him making that joke about 13 times throughout those movies about wanting to be with Wolverine. It's just like this is going to kill it, I think, you know?
So X-97, you know, we got that trailer. The animation's a little bit different. Looks like there might be a little bit of possible CGI stuff, or this way they did it. It looks sort of different. It looks the same, but a little bit different. I'm not sure what they changed with the animation, but you know, Marvel's got their animation studios going and that kind of stuff.
It's like it has more depth to it.
Yeah,
really like.
I wouldn't say CGI, but they did some new animation style on it. So, But yeah, the biggest thing is Jean and Scott are expecting.
Mm-hmm.
We see a pregnant Jean Grey in the trailer. That's
Yeah.
interesting. We have pretty much our original lineup coming in.
Mm-hmm.
There is an actor whose role is secret right now. It's supposed to be a surprise. Who he's voicing. Who's the actor's name again? Let me look him up real quick. But yeah, he's voicing someone they won't let out yet. It's supposed to be a surprise, but we see some hints of the Daily Bugle in this. So it's almost like they're possibly teasing Spider-Man, maybe, or Venom,
Mm-hmm.
or another Spider-Man character. And I hope this show does well because I would love to see them bring back some other animated projects like Spider-Man 98, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Avengers Assemble new episodes, Earth's Mightiest
Oh,
Heroes.
that'd be so amazing.
I would love for them to for this to be very successful for them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is it Theo James? Was it?
Maybe.
I think it's Theo James. It is the voice actor who has a secret role. Yes, it is Theo James. If you don't know who Theo James is, if you've seen the trilogy of Insurgent and those movies, the three of those movies, he's like one of the main guys in it of that one faction that's like kind of like the X Games or like that kind of they're a little bit of the wild faction.
Mm-hmm.
He is the one who's the secret voice actor. We don't know well, we know the voice actor, we just don't know who the character is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess the other thing too, Magneto pretty much owns everything that Charles X owns in this trailer.
Yeah, that's really interesting that they show that scene in the trailer right after Scott Summers goes, "Come to me, my X-Men," and then like immediately after that, they kind of jump like not too far after it to Magneto being in like the X Mansion, and then like telling them all that there you go, there's the last living testament of Charles Xavier to basically give me the X-Men.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, that's going to be really interesting to kind of see how this picks up and where we go from here.
Yeah, what the tone is set to with him leading the X-Men. Did they fall under and fall in line? Do they revolt against him? Do they split? Is there like a half that said no way and the other half that fall in line? So very interesting too. And of course, you got those loud people out there with the controversy about Morph. But if you know your comic history, there is no controversy about Morph. Pick up a comic, watch the show. There's all kinds of stuff out there about Morph and his background. Knock it off, people. Seriously. And if you're and if you're complaining about the X-Men and that kind of stuff, if you really don't know what they're all about and what they've been, if you're really not paying attention or comprehending what happened in the comics and throughout their comic history. So,
is Wolverine the same voice actor, or is that a different actor? Or
that's a good question. I know they brought back a majority of the cast. I know some of them switched roles.
mm-hmm.
That's a good question because he did sound a little more scruffier in the
He's kind
trailer.
of just slightly different.
Yeah.
So like, I not necessarily saying it's not the same actor, but it can always be just somebody else that's kind of replicating that sound is very close. So
also, to a release date, and I'll tell you in a second. I think it's like March 20th is the release date of X-Men 97. Yep, March 20th. So, a continuation of the original show with a new team, Gambit, Rogue, Jubilee, Wolverine, Beast, Morph, and Bishop. And Storm too, wasn't there? Storm in the trailer?
yeah, Storm was
Yeah, and Storm as well. Yeah. And Storm in the trailer as well. But then again, it'll be interesting to see who Theo James ends up playing. They said it's a fan favorite from what I've heard. So Spider-Man, could it be Angel, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what other people we haven't seen in the original series that might show up in this one.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that's going to be hard. That might be a really deep pool, or that could be just somebody that's like right there in front of our face. That
What if it is Deadpool?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's really interesting. I'm really curious. I feel like a lot of people are very excited for this, and I really liked the way that they kind of do that thing in the trailer where they kind of show it like the old style, and then it kind of shifts into the new
Yep.
style. You know, I think it showed it like on a old bubble screen TV or whatever. Like, you
Yep.
know, we would watch it back in the day. So, kind of cool. I'm just really curious to see. I feel like the most about where Magneto goes with this is did he somehow pull those strings to make himself in charge of the X-Men? Is that really Professor X's last living testament?
Yeah.
You know, like, is this Magneto basically like just kind of like causing issues? Is this him trying to be Magneto? You know, who knows? Him and Professor X have always been like, you know, old friends, even though they don't always agree.
Frenemies.
So, yeah, frenemies, exactly. So even though they're not always on the same team, they're kind of two people with similar goals, just with different means to achieve those. So,
And even when they fight, Professor X gets dirty too, because there was that one time when they fought that Professor X made him relive his past to defeat him in that instance. So yeah, they've had some pretty intense fights between each other over the years. But yeah, any other thoughts on X-97 before we get to the news?
Ah, man, no, and I feel like I need to go back and rewatch that show before like I really like think too much about it, because it's one of those things for me where it's like I remember some random stuff like, you know, Wolverine giving Scott Summers a convertible and stuff like that, you know, just random little things like that, but like I don't remember too terribly much of that show. I loved X-Men Evolution. That's like my favorite X-Men cartoon. So that's always been the one that whenever I go and I watch X-Men cartoons, I always go back and watch that one. That one is like my favorite. So
Yeah.
it's not that 97 is bad or anything. It's just definitely not one of my favorites. So I need to go back and watch that one. Just because, like I said, it's been so long. It's been years and years since I've seen that show.
I remember in the original X-Men cartoon that Beast being jailed for a long time. I think early on in the series he got jailed. And he stayed in jail, and then the whole morph
books the whole time.
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
Like that.
And then the whole morph and Wolverine thing, where Morph kind of lost it for a while and kind of went off, and Wolverine went after him, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I need to go rewatch too. I might see if I can get my son to sit down and rewatch them too as well before the series comes out next month. So pretty much got what just over a month away. So to get caught up, you haven't watched it in a while.
It'll be here before we know it, you know. So.
But yeah, let's get to the news though, because we got some big news stuff that's happened, and we've been away for a little bit, and so a lot of news has happened. But the biggest one is some Bob Iger news. He says that Marvel Studios will be focusing on their stronger franchises and reducing volume going forward. I almost wonder if he's trying to put any kind of limitations over Kevin Feige. The word out there is that Kevin Feige is still in charge of Marvel Studios, but I wonder what, if any, limitations or mandates that Bob Iger puts on him to say, we're focused on their stronger franchises. And what's that mean? Because different fan bases can look at this as different franchises being stronger, right? Also, too, your big three are kind of gone pretty much. I guess two of the big three are pretty much gone, and this leads to me is like definitely a Thor 4 is happening. No, I'm sorry, a Thor 5 is happening. So we've had 4.
Yeah, we've had
fourth Thor film. So this definitely sounds like a Thor 5 is happening. Possibly we're gonna get a Hulk, something with the Hulk maybe, because that's a popular one, and we've kind of skirted around Hulk a little bit over the years in the MCU and that kind of stuff. But I don't think you can resurrect Iron Man at this time. I don't think you can do much with Cap at this time unless you do some kind of fun thing with some stories that while he went back in time with Peggy, or I still don't want to see Return of the Infinity Stones. I don't think we need to see that explanation.
No. It's we're beyond the time when we need to just kind of leave the Infinity Stones in the past, and that was part of my problem with What If and how it ended. Was it was like everything goes right back to these Infinity Stones every time, like yeah, I mean, like, I think that for projects as a whole, like big names and stuff like that, obviously I feel like they kind of need to condense stuff down a little bit. I don't think every character needs a show or a movie or whatever like that. I feel like somewhere along the lines with the Disney Plus streaming, like we got to the point where like we had so many projects and so many shows that I feel like some of them kind of lost their way a little bit. And I do kind of get that, like, kind of feeling, like, in watching some of them, it just doesn't feel like it's, like, the same quality from the MCU that I expected before. Looking at you, Secret Invasion, but, like,
And how the Marvels glossed over that completely.
yeah, just kinda ignored that, but, yeah, I mean, like, I've got some problems with some stuff, but, like, it's just one of those things for me where they definitely probably need to, like, tighten things up a little bit. I'm not really sure, like, you know, what they're gonna do with the stuff that they already had in the pipeline. I think it's kinda hard to kinda, like, tighten things up, and I don't imagine they're just gonna start axing, like, projects that were already in the pipeline and stuff like that. So,
I don't know.
um
WB's doing all the time, calling it, tax write off, whatever. Look
yeah,
at
but
WB. Yeah.
I think for them, it's one of those things where it's like, they're expecting the movie to be like such a loss that it's like it's easier to just take the tax write off than it is to take the loss on losing $100 million on a movie that nobody goes to go see. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but yeah, I mean, like, I think for them, they need to really focus on some team up movies, really focus on giving some of these characters like the Hulk, who have never really had the justice done for that character since probably like the first Avengers movie. I mean, like they kind of wound the Hulk up a little bit, but I feel like the Hulk kind of became a laughing stock, like after, Age of Ultron, kind of more or less, like they got him into comedy and stuff, and that's just not a good look for the Hulk. Like, like it's one of those things where I felt Ragnarok kind of did him okay, but at the same time, like he had some great scenes, but yeah, the Hulk's been kind of like nerfed a little bit.
Yeah.
And we just kind of got to get that character back where it needs to be. They did a good job making She-Hulk kind of, like a badass character. Why don't they do that for the Hulk?
But she was twerking, man. Come on, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm
I
like, do
mean,
you not know who She-Hulk is?
yeah, and what's sad is with the She-Hulk show, my biggest problem with that show isn't even She-Hulk. It's like all the other 9, 10, 11 other problems that I have with like different other things like Scar and,
Oh, Scar is the biggest issue, yeah.
yeah, just like random things that I have that are like the Wrecking Crew being like, they're like
Yeah.
fourth graders is what they remind me of, and I don't know, like, yeah, I mean, like my biggest problem with that, but like they made her like a force, and they've kind of not done that to Hulk now. They've like regressed the Hulk almost in a way. So hopefully they get the Hulk back on track.
Yeah. But She-Hulk right now is the only show that's mentioned Tiamat, though. Is
Yeah,
the only connection to team up because that little news clip. So
yeah, on
we'll
her
see.
computer on the
Yep.
side, like as like a kind of like just a small little portion of an article. Like, it's and for you to have like a giant celestial sticking out of the ocean and nobody to mention it, nobody to even like bring it up, nobody even have it on a TV in the background of like, like it just seems like that would be something that the world would be asking questions about. Natural disasters would have happened because of that, like all sorts of different things. So they need to do something with that,
My only gripe about the slate and everything with the MC right now is that it's been so long between Avengers films.
Mm-hmm.
While we've had mini team ups, we still need that big Avengers film to happen. I think that's the only thing. I think also people are kind of confused right now because there's no sauce on the steak. I guess
Mm-hmm.
there are. I'm sorry, no sizzle on the steak. I shouldn't say sauce because that could be people don't like sauce on their steak, but there's no sizzle on the steak right now. You go and get a thing of steak fajitas, right? The steak fajitas come out. What's the first thing you notice when that tray comes out?
Mm-hmm.
That sizzle on that tray of fajitas, and I think they're missing that right now. Yeah, Marvels we had team ups, No Way Home we've had team ups, Multiverse of Madness we've had team ups.
Mm-hmm.
But where's the big one, right? Where's those 5 to 6 heroes coming together?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they should at least taken the time to have some kind of Avengers movie in between post snap that kind of brought a new team together to at least get those casual fans more excited again, and even some of the more hardcore fans.
And that Thunderbolts movie, that is not it. I can tell you
Nope.
that right now. Like, and I look at stuff like the Eternals movie. I liked the Eternals movie personally. But it kind of left it open to like an Eternals 2. Now it
Yeah.
makes me wonder, do we even see an Eternals 2, like in the future? Is it going to be kind of meshed with something else? Like, they could kind of like put the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Eternals kind of maybe in a movie or something like that. And kind of
What if the reason why we don't know team up because Cersei is the one kind of keeping it hidden, or some of the Eternals are helping keeping it hidden? I know we had that whole scene about them off in space and being grabbed up and that kind of stuff, but what if they kind of pivot, or at least they explain that another way, or we get some kind of project in between where they saw Star Fox pop up with Pip the Troll, and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
And I
I don't
mean,
know.
with Star Fox too, you've got like some Thanos stuff there that they can touch on, some stuff that they can kind of loop back to the past. So, I mean, I think there's still some story to tell there. I hate that we almost are going to loop back. I feel like if we go back to Thanos somehow, we're going to end back up at Infinity Stones at some point. It's going to be like him as a small child talking about wanting the Infinity Stones or something, and it's like, oh, great, dude, like. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they've kind of wound up now. Maybe it's going to end up as a dead end as they kind of narrow the focus.
I hope not. I think for one of those projects out there, and we'll talk about the schedule coming up, where there's a couple empty slots, and that there's an Eternals 2 in there, kind of wrap up that whole thing where they get the team members back together, and then they say, look, these Eternals that are remaining have been keeping Tiamat, a secret this whole time. They're working with, maybe the UN or the GRC or whoever is that global council now in the MCU, in doing that. So yeah, but speaking of Thanos, there could be a Thanos return possibly. Josh Brolin said in an interview that he heard Thanos will be returning. I hear kind of like that through the grapevine. They're gonna bring him back. Almost too. I wonder if we see Thanos being brought back, like we saw in What If, to where we just saw Ultron just instantly defeat him. Maybe we get a flashback of Kang defeating Thanos. In one of his one of his conquests, or we get some more back scenes of Thanos, that kind of stuff. Maybe that ties into some of the newer stuff, but away from the Infinity Stone type stuff.
I think that it is such a missed opportunity, even though I want them to move on from the Infinity Stones, for them to not make like basically Thanos getting the stones and doing the snap is like an integral part of why Kang comes about, because he doesn't basically exist in the future, because had Tony Stark not invented time travel to go back in time to go back and get the stones, then Kang would have never kind of come about, and Kang kind of builds off of that. So it's like, number one, Thanos has to snap and remove all those people, and Tony Stark has to invent time travel. So they could totally do those two things. Like, it's important for those two characters to do both those things, because without them, then Kang never kind of comes about.
Yep.
And I hope they do that. It's kind of one of those things where it makes Thanos even more important in the future, but it's also like it's just building on what we already have and not looping back to tell like even more story that we don't need to really kind of keep beating that dead horse on,
Yeah, I almost feel they missed an opportunity in Quantumania where he was talking about defeating Avengers before. They should have had a flashback scene showing him defeating Avengers in Quantumania when he started talking about that. And I wonder if they're going to use maybe the snap happening, him defeating a Thanos in their timeline, that kind of stuff, when they, in the Kang Dynasty, if that's still the Kang Dynasty, and have flashbacks of that kind of stuff. And maybe what you said about the snap being so integral, because of time travel, if they go over that and talk about that and show that initial snap in the Kang Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, he mentions in Quantumania he's fought like Thor before, right? Like he's like,
show us,
yeah, show it. Just give us like a glimpse of that or
Yeah.
something, Like they could have done like a highlight reel of just like frozen scenes of like the whole trying to punch Kang and Kang just like in a bubble, just like getting wailed on, just like looking at him or something, like him standing over Thor's dead body, like just random little stuff like that, right? Like. And it could have been one of those things, like it would have just been like a picture, another picture, another picture, another picture, another picture, and then come back to the story. And they would have been like, it would have been great. But yeah, like they need to just kind of explore that a little bit more and kind of flush that out, in my opinion.
I take it back to that Age of Ultron scene when Scarlet Witch did the mind trick at the lair of what's his name? The Hydra dude, the ex-Hydra dude.
Oh, shoot. I know who.
When Stryker.
Stryker. I was gonna say Stryker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but.
But when they were in his lair in Sokovia, outside Sokovia, you know, when she did the mind trick, he did the flashback. That drove his motivations for creating Ultron to that kind of stuff. That was a good thing of using like a vision or a glimpse to kind of help push the story narrative. That's what was missed in Quantumania. Hopefully they do some of that if they do the King Dynasty as well and show us those flashbacks, because we saw the team decimated pretty much in that scene. We need to see that kind of decimation of the team to say, yeah, if King says, yeah, I've beaten Avenger before, aren't you the one with the hammer? Show him this crushing Thor.
And she forces Tony to see like himself surrounded by all the other Avengers dead.
Yeah.
You know, in that one scene with the Jatari like coming through, which is kind of like a loop back to where he was in the first Avengers movie, where he like puts the missile through and then goes back through right as he sees this army getting ready to come in. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, you know, you could have one of those moments where it's just Kang standing over all their dead bodies and, you know, just like in a mound. And
it's not Stryker, it's Strucker. Or
Strucker. Yeah. Stryker. We were talking about X-Men. So but it's Baron von Strucker.
His pupils, his star pupils.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, they need to do something with that meat that they left on the bone there to kind of just tease that, and not like Thor is a pretty powerful character, so to have somebody like just kind of steamroll him, and the other thing is to be like, I don't even know which ones of you I've killed so many of you.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, well, just show us a handful of them, you know,
or even a thing of King invading New Asgard and defeating Thor and Valkyrie. That would be a great scene to see like that in a flashback. So to continue things rolling, the Los Angeles Philharmonic is hosting the Marvel Studios Infinity Saga concert experience at the Hollywood Bowl on August 30th and 31st. So if you're out in the area, there you go. It's pretty cool they're doing that, like the ones they do with Giacchino in Minnesota, and do the orchestra, that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool to see those things happening. So if you're out in the area, go check it out. Thunderbolts news, speaking of your favorite film, via Deadline, Lewis Pullman has been cast for the role of Sentry. So we finally have a Sentry. If you don't remember who he was, he is Bill. First of all, he's Bill Pullman's son. So his dad did save the world from the aliens. In Independence Day, he was the president. But he also was in Top Gun. He was the guy with the glasses. He was Robert Bob something. I can't remember what his call sign was. But it's funny because he went from playing Bob in Top Gun Maverick to playing Bob in Sentry. In Bob Reynolds in Thunderbolt. So he's cast. We have Sentry. Also, too, being reported is Rachel Weisz and Lawrence Fishburne are set to reprise their roles via Production Weekly. So it looks like we're getting Iron Maiden back, which we had a teaser of her mask in the first one when they showed her at her house with the pigs and the mind control stuff. But also, too, Lawrence Fishburne, you know, Bill Foster, who's going to have that obvious tie to Ghost, his past with S.H.I.E.L.D., being Goliath, that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. Reportedly, Tiamat is confirmed to be the main plot. I'm sorry, wrong. Oh, the main plot of Brave New World and Thunderbolt. So it sounds like either both or one of those films is going to show us what's been going on with Tiamat since the Eternals. So I wonder.
Brave New World comes out first before Thunderbolt?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like maybe the ending of Brave New World kind of maybe sets up like maybe a global kind of issue or something that maybe the Thunderbolts get involved with dealing with.
And maybe this one, we get adamantium maybe from this.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they could have had Cersei when she changed Tiamat to kind of like, you know, keep him from awakening, if you will. Like they could have just had her basically change his matter and create adamantium that way.
Yep, and that's what it's telling me right here, and then my next notes here. So in Eternals, we've seen her turn Tiamat into stone, which they're saying could possibly be adamantium in the MCU. So there you go.
I've been saying that for so long. That would be so sweet. Oh man.
U.S. President Thunderbolt Ross and the government has secretly known about the Celestial in the ocean and haven't publicly said anything because they want it for themselves, which is why they assemble the Thunderbolts. So it's interesting too because where Tiamat is located, I don't think the U.S. has jurisdiction, but maybe working again with some kind of new world power to contain that and hide the resources.
You could have the GRC. I mean, that's still like a thing, right? The
Yeah,
Global
or
Repatriation
damage control, or
yeah, you could
yeah,
have some government organization or non-government organization try and claim jurisdiction over it, and then cause like maybe some big international incident, and then have like all these nations kind of like going at it and stuff. You know, like I'm curious because like I feel like this is very similar to like the vibranium kind of like situation, right? Like if
yep,
it's precious metal, people are going to be like chasing after it. Maybe people will look at it and see it as like an alternative to vibranium, and maybe be like kind of less inclined to go after Wakanda and more inclined to go after this that's kind of just seems to be a ton of it, and it's
yep.
just kind of like, you know, hey, who can get there first and get some back to their country kind of type of thing. So
And plus, you want Val and Wakanda Forever wanting vibranium, and this kind of may shift her focus to like, oh, there's a rival metal to vibranium,
mm-hmm,
So here we go.
mm-hmm.
Via Deadline, Geraldine Vishwanathan, which for the while I wanted her to play Miss Marvel in the MCU, but she's older now, so she's joining the cast of Thunderbolts. Ayo Idibiri is leaving the project due to scheduling conflicts brought on after her production was delayed due to strikes. So
Mm-hmm.
another actor is being, has to change roles here because of strikes. But it sounds like Geraldine will be playing Val's assistant in this film. I think that's the role that Aya was playing too, from what I've seen out there. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds like an assistant role, kind of that plucky type comedic role, possibly for her assistant. We'll have to see that. I don't know if that's confirmed, but what I've seen out there in social media. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, the big news, why I'm wearing the hoodie today, we have a Fantastic Four cast. Before I get to the cast, though, according to Daniel RPK, new writers were brought on to do rewrites for the script. The new script is expected to be completed within the next month or two. New writers are touching up Josh Fraben's script are Scott Nostater and Michael Weber. I'm going to skip this next one because we know it's confirmed, but there was some smoke out there because Pedro Pascal at the SAG-AFTRA in his description talked about Fantastic Four. Supposedly there's a Matt Shackman Instagram account that tweeted or that put that in the story. That story was taken down, and now that account is gone. So that was interesting. But before I get to the casting, via GQ, Ben Mendelsohn, who played Talos in the MCU, wants to play Doctor Doom, which he has the voice to do that, to carry that as Doctor Doom, I think. He said, I would almost give my eyes and teeth to play Doctor Doom. I think Doctor Doom is the great unread Marvel character that could and should be done, but it is what it is, because he knows that, he's already been in the MCU, but he's dead now, so there's a precedent there for recasting dead dead characters, the actors that played them.
Yeah, they did not do him justice as a Skrull, like to kill him the way that they did. Like they kind of gave his death some meaning, kind of like saving the president, and then kind of took that meaning away when they had the president be like, I'm declaring war against all off-world combatants. So, I mean, like, it sucks, like, kind of how I feel like they ended his character in the MCU. So I would not hate seeing him back. I don't know if, like, he's too old to maybe be Doom. That's my only thing. But
honestly, we don't need to see anyone's face for Doom. Doom should be a voice actor, in my opinion. Don't do the origin story. Have him come in as Doom, rolling up on the bear, possibly, as an opening scene. But yeah, we don't need an act to see his face, a voice actor. You have some very great voice actors out there. We talked about Zachary Quinto.
Mm-hmm.
He could voice Doom in the MCU. If you want to go that voice route, we don't need to see the face. We just need that menacing voice of Doom.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I know that it's so hard to do this day and time, but imagine if we had Doom for an entire movie, and all the way up to the movie release until people actually see the movie, we never know who plays
the actor.
Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like Doom the entire movie in the mask, and at the very like last 30 seconds of the movie, Doom takes his mask off, and we know who the actor is, and then you hear their real voice. That would be amazing, And I know people would go and see it and come right out and then post on social media, this is the actor. Da, da, da. But like,
I still wouldn't show it though. Just give me the
yeah,
voice. I wouldn't show it at all. You know,
yeah, yeah.
the whole time the Dooms in the MCU never show the face, never reveal the actual actor in the costume, just
Hmm.
reveal who the voice actor is.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it would be sweet, to kind of do something like that. And I mean, you could maybe even do it later down the road, but I just think that this day and time, like, it would be one of the greatest treats ever to not know who's playing Doom for a while, at least.
And it'd be cool to have scenes where his mask is off. We just see the hood and we see him grab the mask and put it on, but never the face.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
But on Valentine's Day, Marvel officially announced the cast. This should be a surprise to no one. Reed Richards is Pedro Pascal. Vanessa Kirby is going to be the Invisible Girl, Sue Storm. Ebon Moss Bachrach is going to be the Thing slash Ben.
Ben Grimm.
Ben Grimm, thank you. Ben Grimm. Joseph Quinn will be Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch. So that's interesting. The date for now is July 5th, 2025. If you look at some of the stuff they put out there, it appears to at least be a period piece, partly in the 60s. There is that magazine cover that ties back, the Life magazine cover that ties directly back to the 60s. I still hope, we get a good chunk of that. And then by the end, we get modernized costumes and they're kind of just watching the events unfold, but not interfering yet. I would love to, not to do Galactus or Surfer in the first film, but it sounds like that's the route they're going. I would love to do what we talked about before, have them tied to Hank Pym. There was some kind of accident with Pym particles. They got stuck in Subatomica. The first villain that's chasing them around is Psycho Man. That also ties back to Infinity War. I'm sorry, to Endgame, where they went back in time and Hank got the call about the package glowing. That same kind of accident happened, which got them stuck. That's a great way to do it as one way. I know the quantum realms, in Microverse is kind of overplayed right now, but you could tie that to Subatomica and Psycho Man pretty easily before bringing the big guns in.
Well, and you could add another layer to that too, where we know that Lawrence Fishburne's character Bill Foster worked with Hank Pym in the past, and then they kind of had like a little bit of we'll say butting heads, and then they kind of went their separate ways. We know that Hank basically knew that when Janet went subatomic, that he was worried about losing her. You could have like that whole event of her going subatomic being such a fear for him because it happened to the Fantastic Four. Maybe it happened when him and Bill Foster were working together. And then Bill Foster was very upset with Hank because of that. Maybe that put stress on their relationship. And then that could also have Reed come back into the picture, and Bill Foster could be like, hey, you've been gone. I need your help to help me fix Ghost.
Yeah.
And you could do that, and you can kind of, just kind of take some stuff that's going on here and just kind of all tie it together. I think it would be awesome if they did something like that,
That, or they go the Lost in Space route. And you kind of bring the Maker in where Reed's the hero and the villain of the film, and so forth. And maybe they come across the Surfer as part of that. Via Jeff Snyder, Marvel Studios has reportedly started meeting with actors for the role of Silver Surfer. So there you go there. Also being reported that Doctor Doom's MCU debut will come at the end of Fantastic Four. So this almost seems like they're going to do it either in a post-credit scene or at the very end of the movie, maybe. Casting will not begin until the film has started for Doom. Galactus reportedly the main villain, with Javier Bardem named as top choice for the role. Henry Cavill is basically in the MCU, but we don't know what the role is yet. I hope it's not Doom, but what if he's a Silver Surfer? I don't know. If, I'd love to see him be Hercules. That's, I think Captain Britain's the too obvious one. If they're not going to continue on with Brett Goldstein, they show at the end of the last Thor film.
Thor 4.
Yeah, Love and Thunder. Yeah, if they're not going to continue with Brett Goldstein, make him Hercules. In the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what I would want Henry Cavill cast as. I know people are going to be like, oh, Hyperion or Sentry or something like that, but we already have the Sentry casting, and it's like I don't really think I like him as Hyperion. And
there's no word of the Scarlet Supreme at all. I know there was rumors about them being in Logan season 2. It didn't happen, so they're not on the radar right now. I don't think in the MCU. But go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say Captain Britain would be okay for him. I think. I don't know, like, I remember there were people fan casting him as Reed Richards, and I was like, I do not see Henry Cavill as Reed Richards to me. I don't really see him as Doom either, like it's not that I don't think he couldn't play the role, but like, I don't know. It's not who I see him as. I feel like that would be one of those they would just have to cast him as something, and I have no clue what I would like to see him play, to be honest. I'm kind of stuck in that mindset of ever since I've seen him as Superman, I feel like I'm just kind of stuck with him playing like Superman in my head, but I mean, he's playing villains and stuff now. I think he was just a villain in a movie, if I remember correctly, or something. It was that like spy kind of movie that he came out
Argyle, that just came out.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet though.
I haven't seen it either, but I think he plays like a villainous kind of type role in that. So
he kind of gives me that was it Bison or Zangief kind of feel, the way his hair is and the way he looks. I think it's kind of vibe in that film. But yeah, maybe he could be Doom. I don't know. I just don't see it. His voice doesn't give me that menacing feel. When you watch the cartoons and you hear like Doom's voice and that kind of stuff, it doesn't give me that Doom feel.
It'd be funny if they made him like the Beyonder or something like that.
The Beyonder, yeah.
He could probably play something like that, but yeah, I mean, he's just such an interesting kind of, I guess, casting choice for me. I don't know where I'd put him, honestly.
Deadpool 3 news. So filming has wrapped. Ryan Reynolds confirmed it. Marvel Studios Japan has released the first synopsis for Deadpool 3. The responsible hero Deadpool will change the history of the MCU with Wolverine. Director Matthew Vaughn from X-Men First Class via Post-Cred Pod says Deadpool 3 will save the MCU. He said that's going to be the jolt. The Marvel Universe is about to have a jolt of them, and it's going to bring the body back to life. After so there you go. He says that this will basically save it. After a fake Deadpool 3 picture went viral, Michael Chiklis via social media clarified that he isn't reprising the role of the Thing. So there's that one picture that looks pretty convincing we've seen. So I guess he's not in it, He says, I do know who they're casting, though. Not my place to tell, but I will say this. I'm a fan of his work and wish him luck and success with it. This was before the casting announcement came out. But this, Matthew Vaughn may be onto something, because Disney said that the trailer for Deadpool 3 smashed the record for most viewed trailer of all time with 365 million views in 24 hours. Since it's the most viewed trailer in a 24-hour period since Spider-Man No Way Home, which had 355 million views in 24 hours. Also, too, No Way Home went on after that to become the 7th highest grossing film ever at 1.9 billion. So, do we think this is going to be a $2 billion plus film?
I think it's going to at least make $1.5 billion easy. It might make $2 billion. I think this movie is going to be probably one of their most successful movies, probably in the last few years, probably. It's so hard for me to like loop back and think that, remember there was a time when the first Deadpool movie wasn't even going to make it out, and somebody, will pretend it wasn't Ryan Reynolds, leaked like the test footage for it, and the internet went crazy for it, and that's how like we're here today. And so it's crazy to me to like imagine that. I know Ryan Reynolds loves to make jokes in the past about how like who released that test footage and stuff, but it was totally him. And I'm glad.
The one thing that saddens me about the first Deadpool movie, the villain was supposed to be Taskmaster, but because it was a Fox film, they didn't have the rights to him.
Then they made Francis the villain.
Yeah. That would have been a great movie, because Taskmaster and Deadpool have some good fights in the comics.
That would have been good. I mean, the fight choreography in the Deadpool movies have always been pretty good, and that would have really done, I feel like, some justice to Taskmaster, rather than the one that we got in the MCU, which is not even really Taskmaster. It's like a completely different character, But
yeah, I'll stop talking about that because I'll go on a rant. Secret Wars news. So Joe Manganiello said he heard Sam Raimi's doing Secret Wars when asked about a potential Marvel return as Agent Venom via comicbook.com. Remember, in the first Spider-Man trilogy, Joe Manganiello was Flash Thompson. So
oh yeah,
in the Raimi films he was. So he has ties to Raimi. Says he heard he's gonna do Secret Wars. Hey, as long as they have continuity there between Secret Wars and all that kind of stuff, I'm good with it. So
I don't want to fight you, Flash. I wouldn't want to fight me either.
He was very young in that film too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Daredevil Born Again news. Via comicbook.com, Wilson Bethel will return as Bullseye. He was the Bullseye in the Netflix series. According to Deadline, Bethel will return as Poindexter for just 3 episodes. A separate report by Daniel RPK indicated that Wool's role as Paige in the series is limited to just 3 episodes as well. Girl, you in danger. So it sounds like Bullseye is going to kill Karen.
Yep.
So
yeah, and his costume, I'm assuming that's like one of the costume leaks that we've seen for, for Daredevil Born Again, but I do not like that costume in this. Like, I was kind of hoping they'd do something a little bit different, but who knows? Maybe he kind of like pops in, gets broken again, and then disappears again.
Hey, it's better than the Affleck film when he had the bullseye target on his tattooed in his head, pretty much.
Oh yeah, I know. I saw a meme, and I don't know if it was true or not, but it was like something like, why that was like, he had like the scar or the tattoo or whatever. It was to distract you from the rest of his costume or something like that. And I was like, yeah, well, it definitely did. Like, you can't help but look at that every time you see him on screen. But yeah.
Reportedly, Leslie Bibb returned as Christine Everhart in the series. Also, she was the reporter from Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. I don't think she was anything else in the MCU. I can't remember if not, but I know she was in the first 2 Iron Man films. She was in that.
I think she was also in the Jupiter's Legacy show, and she was also in Talladega Nights too.
Yeah,
right?
she was. She was the wife in Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
She also was in the movie Tag. You haven't seen Tag? Tag is the movie with the friends playing tag for like a lifelong. She is the fiance and eventual wife of Jimmy Renner in that film. So yeah,
that's funny.
Edie Young responds to a fan via social media asking her where Elektra is with filming on the series. She says, "Ask them." So don't know if she's in it or not, but she's saying, "Ask them about it." Margarita Vieva, sorry if I mispronounced that, is confirmed to play the role of Heather Glenn, Matt Murdock's girlfriend. So
interesting.
Marvel's news as of February 7th. It's on Disney Plus. I've watched it like 2 or 3 times. That film was so enjoyable. The Marvels, especially the Khan family, and even the post-credit scene. It still gets to me with Monica Maria in that, because Monica is all emotional and freaking out. Mom. She's like, I don't know who you are. So that scene still gets me. But yeah, I watched it. Pretty good out there. I'll probably watch it again.
I still, for me, I think Brie Larson did such, I feel like that character of Captain Marvel was done so much better in that movie, than all the other movies Captain Marvel's been in put together. Like, the growth, the kind of problems that she created in the past in her first movie, all that kind of stuff. I thought they did phenomenal with that. And I mean, I really enjoyed that movie for Captain Marvel. And I'm not really a big Captain Marvel fan in the comics or in the MCU, but I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was an excellent sequel
I thought they've caught her personality really well, especially the military side, how she is and that kind of stuff. They've caught that really well in the MCU.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things, as well as I do, in the comics, she's kind of like a very bulldozing kind of character. She's got a very forceful personality, one that's very stubborn and everything like that. And they definitely got that in the MCU. And it's it almost took her all these years to kind of realize that what she did in the 90s really messed up the Kree Empire a lot. And now she's kind of going back and fixing that problem that she created. So I've really enjoyed that. So.
It's the whole Tony Stark thing. We create our own demons. And she created Dar-Benn from that's so.
Yeah, I love Tony Stark, but he creates a lot of demons. So, he's creating so many different problems, inadvertently and indirectly and everything. So.
Oh, speaking of Tony Stark and murder bots, Herbie is going to be in Fantastic Four as well. I almost wonder if he's the original basis for Ultron. Not being Ultron, but being that AI, that that kind of thing, and that maybe leads to Tony discovering some of that stuff and creating Ultron and that kind of stuff, and I wonder if we actually get a proper. Well, we kind of saw it in Multiverse of Madness with the proper Ultron, Iron Legion type stuff. But I wonder if we get another thing of that after we see Fantastic Four, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, back on track here. The Assembled episode, The Making of the Marvels, is on Disney Plus also, so go check that out. I'm still looking forward to how they're going to do Young Avengers, and that setup at the end. So looking forward to that.
Do we know if it's going to be like a movie show?
I don't know. I don't know yet,
Yeah.
but they laid the groundwork for it. So don't do one of those dead end. And it wasn't a post credit scene; it was in the movie, which I believe from reports it was supposed to be a post credit scene, but it wasn't a post credit scene. It was in the movie, so don't fall short on that. Spider-Man rumor news. Rumor is that Sony is working on a rated R Spider-Man animated film. And honestly, that's fine for Sony. Stick to the animation stuff. That's what you've been good at. Live action stuff, not so much. But yeah, that'd be interesting to see a R-rated Spider-Man film.
I'm so curious to see what that would be. Like, I have this really like weird feeling that they're gonna be like, well, it's not really a Spider-Man movie. It's really like a Sinister Six movie or something like that. It's like, anime, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like spin it that way. And then like, I love that idea that Andy had a long time ago about like doing a movie almost like in reverse, where you have like the
villain's point of view,
hero, kind of type deal, and you have like the villain thinks that he's the hero, and the hero is actually kind of like the villain. And yeah, I mean, like that would be kind of sweet. But yeah, I haven't seen Madam Web yet, and I'm probably not going to go see that.
The clips I've seen, I was like, come on now. And it looks like they reused some stuff from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies as well. And some of the clips, I was like, come on.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it, and I'm quite worried about Craven. I don't know if I'll be seeing that movie in theaters either.
Hey,
but
if we get a proper Rhino in Craven, that'll be worth it for me. Right there.
Yeah. So, they did not do Rhino right in The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Mechanical, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that actor. What is his name? Paul
Giamatti. Yeah, I love the actor, but Mechanical Rhino, come on.
Well, yeah, and I'm just like, out of all the roles, that guy can play so many roles. You put him as Rhino and a mechanical, like, why not just like CGI and make him like, like a massive Rhino man, or whatever.
And when you see his face,
yeah, and you could just put his face right there, and he would kill that. And I did not like the mechanical Rhino in that movie at all.
Sony Pictures are reportedly considering bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man 4. Don't do it. Focus on Tom Holland. We had the moment in No Way Home. They got sent back. Let's focus on a street level Spider-Man movie in this film in the MCU that we haven't had yet. Everything so far has always been the bigger picture stuff. Get us to that focus on the single Spider-Man in a street level film. That's it.
Just because it worked once doesn't mean it's going to work again.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of just saw this happen with Thor Ragnarok, and then Thor Love and Thunder. They kind of tried to do the same thing with, Love and Thunder that they did with Ragnarok. And I don't think that movie was as good as Ragnarok was by any stretch of the imagination. So they need to do something different. I mean, I love the idea of having them back. I would love for Andrew Garfield to get another Spider-Man movie.
Secret Wars.
Yeah, bring them back in Secret Wars. But we don't need to, because then they'll bring them in, we'll see them briefly, and then they'll be like, oh, well, this movie made $1.5 billion. We need to put them in Spider-Man 5, and it'll be like, why? Why do we keep doing this?
Yeah, if you want to do that, just give us like you said, give us the third Garfield film, like you were going to kind of do in that universe, and then go from there, or have him older, coming back from the events of No Way Home, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you could have somebody like Tobey Maguire die in Secret Wars. Add a little bit of kind of a higher stakes situation, have him sacrifice himself or do something, that would be great to have Tobey Maguire do that, because he's getting kind of older, he can kind of just move on. Andrew Garfield's a little bit younger, but obviously Tom Holland's a lot younger than I think Tobey Maguire. So, it'd be one of those things, by the time we get to Secret Wars, I mean, when did the first Spider-Man movie come out? In 2001 with Tobey Maguire? Is something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be 26 years or something by the time Secret Wars is out. That first one came out. So, just kind of just let him do his thing, and then let him do something like that. We don't need them back multiple times. Just like you said, put them in Secret Wars, and then let's move on.
Kevin Feige reportedly wants the movie to be more grounded, while Sony wants it to be huge. So listen to Feige.
Yeah, they don't need their. I know they're trying to do this like interconnected Spider-Man universe and everything, and they want to make that huge and everything, but they don't need to do that. Spider-Man is such a strong character. They've seen how well the Spider-Verse movies are doing, with Miles Morales and everything. Like, that is such a great character, and they've done very well with those movies. I love those movies. They're phenomenal. I can't wait for the third one. Doesn't mean that every Spider-Man character needs a movie, though, or every villain needs a TV show or a movie or whatever they want to do. Like,
Vincent D'Onofrio has reportedly been in talks to be in Spider-Man 4. There you go. There's your villain. Boom.
Yep.
And which goes along with the reports of it possibly being a street level Civil War. Stick with that. But John Watts will not return reportedly. For Spider-Man 4, so they're gonna have a new director for that film. Via Vanity. Go ahead.
I was gonna say they could put Daredevil in that movie too,
Yeah.
and you could have like where basically Daredevil recognizes Spider-Man is Peter Parker, not because of them working together in the past. He could have forgotten him, but he could meet Peter Parker in person and recognize like his heartbeat's the same, or recognize like something about him, his scent, something like that is unique about him, and then him be like, I know you're Spider-Man, Peter. And then like, Peter would be like, oh yeah, you were my lawyer. And he was like, I was, kind of type of thing. Like, it'd be really great. And I just want to see Peter Parker as Spider-Man swing through the city with Daredevil. Like, like I think that would be an awesome shot. There's a shot from the comics that I have in the back of my head right now that I just picture the two of them side by side, kind of like swinging, through a little section of the city. And I would love to see that on screen.
Via Vanity Fair, Donald Glover says he's too old to play Spider-Man, but he wouldn't be surprised if Sony wants him to play the Prowler in the live-action Miles Morales movie. So there you go.
He was the Prowler in that one scene in Spider-Verse.
Homecoming, he teased it in Homecoming, but also yes, in Spider-Verse he was across Spider-Verse. They showed him
the costume.
Yeah, wearing the costume.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 4 is reportedly still being written and will release before Avengers Kang Dynasty. But it's reported that it will set up the Kang Dynasty. I kind of mix some news in there. So the Glover stuff is not tied to Spider-Man 4. Sorry about that. But Spider-Man 4, as I said, is all good. Back to Miles Morales stuff, though. Miles Morales film via Variety at the Oscars luncheon. Longtime Spider-Man franchise producer Amy Pascal has confirmed a live-action Miles Morales movie will happen someday, but other projects are taking priority first. That was later clarified to say that there are 2 more movies that they have to do, which is Beyond the Spider-Verse and the Holland movie for the clarification. So not the Madam Web or Craven or any of that stuff. It's Beyond the Spider-Verse and the Holland Spider-Man 4 movie are taking precedence over Miles Morales film at this time, which you could set up Miles Morales even more in Spider-Man 4, right? So, and the Prowler already exists in the Spider-Man universe and MCU, so, maybe he lives in his apartment building or something like that.
And I would honestly love to see them do that third Spider-Verse movie to kind of finish out the animated Miles Morales story before we get to the live action one. That way they can kind of like finish that off. Like they kind of left that second movie on a cliffhanger at the end a little bit, kind of a big ending in my opinion. And I would love to see them just go ahead and wrap that movie up and then shift into that live action movie.
It'd be pretty cool. Do the end of Beyond the Spider-Verse like they did Work by Night, where they went from black and white into color. Could go from animation to live action, and just leave it at the end and leave a cliffhanger like that. And then we see Miles pop up in Spider-Man 4, or maybe his dad or his mom. Somehow they're in the same apartment building on the street or something. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, they've already done that where they've had, a live action Prowler in that movie. So why would they not just have they could easily do that. They've kind of done the reverse, so they can kind of reverse it back, in my opinion. But yeah, that would be awesome.
Spider-Man Noir. Nicolas Cage is in talks to return for the live-action Spider-Man Noir series. And this is of a different universe, not connected to Peter Parker, but Spider-Man Noir series. And this is, I believe, is on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Zombies. There's a rumor that it will feature a Moon Knight who rides a motorcycle, but it's not Mark Spector. Night Travelers will be protected by a new Moon Knight in What If. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So
See who that is.
yeah, which not variant, but which Moon Knight that had that mantle will be this one.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be funny if somehow a Ghost Rider became a Moon Knight mantle, and he on the motorcycle, instead of having the Hell Charger, he has the motorcycle. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. But yeah, I'm interested to see. You know, I hope to see one day is that that Moon Knight annual #1 as an animated project or just like a spotlight. That was so cool. All those different Moon Knights coming together. Was it to fight Kang? I believe to defeat Kang. Yeah, in that one, that was pretty cool. That annual Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Also, What If via Daniel RPK, Kahori will reportedly make her live action debut in the MCU within the next 4 years. I wonder if she's going to be part of this phase or the next one.
I don't know, but I feel like it has to be the same Kahori from What If, right? Like, I mean, like it has to be that same variant, probably.
Yes, and the person who voiced Kahori in What If is Bonnie in Echo.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make things interesting if they made Bonnie a Kahori in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
That would make things really interesting.
Which, I mean, then that gives the door, I feel like, is kind of cracked open to kind of having these animated characters become live action characters. Yep. And then you can kind of like squeeze in, even if you're Sony, more characters like Miles Morales, kind of making that on-screen jump from, you know, the animation to the actual live action. So
more Moon Knight news. Reportedly, Marvel in their new TV division, which is the Marvel Spotlight stuff or something different. I can't have to check on that one. But they met with the writers to show run Moon Knight season 2. So it sounds like there's some traction there because other things related to Moon Knight could be popping up in the MCU as well. But before I get to that, Young Avengers I mentioned. Reportedly, the project is in active development at Marvel Studios with the potential release date as early as 2026.
Oh, wow.
Don't know if it's a show or a movie, but there you go. Avengers 5 via Daniel RPK. Jeff Loveness was supposedly fired from the Kang Dynasty after negative reactions from Quantumania. I thought Quantumania was fine. It just needed some tweaks. Like I said, the flashbacks would have been good. Yeah. His plan for Kang Dynasty was reportedly that to gather all the leads of Multiverse Saga except Thor to fight against Kang variants on Earth. The film would have felt grounded and not involved too many multiversal elements. Okay, my issue is this: stop making Earth the big battlefield. We just had that as the big battlefield in Endgame and in Infinity War. Do it somewhere else. Do it anywhere else. You can even put it like in another multiverse.
The Void Battle World.
The Void Battle World. You have all these options, but I don't know. Yeah, and then not multiversal elements. I don't know. I picture the Kang Dynasty we've seen. I don't know. I always picture the Kang Dynasty like this, that we get that one true Kang type of thing, right? So parts of that movie, we see Kang defeating the other Kangs and become the one Kang, right? Or
Highlander Kang.
Yeah, or maybe the Avengers, or we do that Only Myself That Left to Conquer type storyline in there. And the Avengers are trying to stop him because in that wake of that aftermath of him defeating his other Kangs, he's causing multiversal issues across the multiverse. That's where we get the multiversal Team Avengers come together. Some familiar faces, not the OG ones, that kind of stuff, that fail in that film. And we get to basically, it's Kang, right? Kang's the big bad, and all of a sudden he's like the only one left, that one Kang. He's the Conqueror King now. We see the whole thing with Scott and Hope from Quantumania. They think they're all right, but Scott's freaking out saying, is this really what's happening, blah, blah, blah. When they went back through that portal, they pop out in the Kang Dynasty, right? And that kind of leaves on a cliffhanger. Then we get to Secret Wars. There's a Kang Dynasty film. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can kind of do it. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but have you ever seen the one with Jet Li?
Yep, similar to that.
Yeah,
exactly.
you could do it kind of like that with Kang, where it's like, kind of like there's all these other versions, but then like he's just the last man kind of standing kind of
Yep.
type of deal. And yeah, I mean, he could easily be like, done, I feel like, a few different ways. I know they plan on recasting and moving forward, and we've seen all these different variants of Kang, with Jonathan Majors as that actor. So I'm really curious to see how they kind of change things up and shift this story kind of moving forward. I feel like, we're going to probably end up in a whole different direction. I really hope we end up with Kang like as the main big bad, and they don't try and like shoehorn Doom in to kind of like change direction towards the end here, and kind of just have like Kang get slapped to the side and then have Doom kind of, we need to like let Doom do his thing and kind of develop on screen. And I would really like to keep him away from the Fantastic Four, in my opinion, but I know you've already said that he's supposed to be at the end of that movie, so.
The one thing they could do too, like we said what Annie said before, is make the Kang dynasty from Kang's point of view, conquering his variants.
Mm-hmm.
I know that kind of set the tone in Quantumania, but they all came together. But maybe there's a rogue King in that faction that, or the Conqueror King that we saw that supposedly died, did not die, and now that he's kind of back and kind of faking everything out, he's going around conquering everybody else.
So, like how, for instance, like Thanos goes and gets all the Infinity Stones, and like each Infinity Stone, we don't see him get the Power Stone, but the other 5 we see him go and get. And each one of those is kind of like a fight. They could do that where it's like Kang wiping out the Council of Kangs one at a time or something
Yep,
like that. And each one of them is just like a different type of fight, and then him getting something from them or doing something, like
that makes
wiping
him
the board.
stronger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then kind of like being like, hey, I'm the one Highlander Kang, the one Kang to rule them all kind of type deal. And like he's kind of like the one that is basically the strongest, and he's kind of killed the council. Everybody else is gone, and then you could kind of have somebody like Loki kind of pop in, and Loki could kind of just be like, hey, I've got to stop this,
yeah.
like now, as the person that's kind of holding this all together, now I got to get involved, and it'd be really great, I think.
Because you kind of already had the in Loki season 2 about them already defeating other Kangs. They kind of mentioned the one that took care of itself, but really that was kind of to trick everybody else. They really didn't take care of itself. It was some tomfoolery going on there.
Mm-hmm. And
And by the time
they
we get
don't
to the
say it's 616. They say 616 adjacent,
isn't,
and I'm
yes,
just like, oh, I don't like how you did that, because it's like it's either 616 or it's like connected to 616, and he's not from 616.
I
So
wonder if they call it that adjacent because of the quantum realm, maybe.
maybe.
Yeah. But the one thing they could do is that by the time we get to the King Dynasty, the only kings that are left is the 3 on the council, and he has to defeat the 3 of them. That
Mm-hmm.
could be it.
Yep.
And maybe it could also be this too. It could be the enemy of my enemy is my friends, or the Council of Kings say, look, we thought that this person was beat by the Avengers in this universe. Let's
Mm-hmm.
team up with these Avengers to take out this Kang. But in that wake, he destroys everyone and defeats everyone, and that's the King Dynasty. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, Iron Fist news: a new project for Iron Fist is rumored to be in development with the woman in the main role. Finn Jones could return as Danny Rand, but he won't be the main Iron Fist going forward in the MCU, also via Daniel LPK. So this kind of sets up that the end of Iron Fist, where he had the guns, right, and Colleen had the mantle of Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which, that him having the guns, I think that was from like Orson Randall that actually
yep,
did that in the comics. That would like direct his chi through the guns and everything like that. Which we briefly see, which I honestly was so excited. I was like stoked because I like Orson Randall more than I like Danny Rand. So like, for me personally, like Danny Rand is kind of not done right in the Netflix shows. I don't think that actor did him justice. I can never remember his name.
Finn
Um,
Jones.
but yeah, Finn Jones. But yeah, I mean, like we can beat that dead horse all day long. But I feel like with them kind of like leaning into Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Punisher, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, the Defenders, all that sort of being canon now to the MCU, they kind of have to like include him and then kind of like move past him at the same time.
Yeah. Um, King there's a rumor that John David Washington is being considered for Kang in the MCU. So another possible actor for Kang. Blade news. Via Dana RPK, Blade is still a period piece, rated R. Lilith is going after Blade's daughter's blood to create an army of Daywalkers. Her weapon is the Ebony Blade. Now that's interesting, because in the comics there was a Ebony Blade made of vampire fang, which they used to control Dane, or they used to control Dane Whitman, I believe, or another Black Knight. I can't remember, but there was that version of that in the film. I've been saying this for a while. It's like if they use the Ebony Blade, and especially what we saw at the end of Eternals, it makes sense. Blade being involved and saying, "You sure you want to do that?" Because he knows that's made of vampire thing, and that has some different elements to it that could do that. So it sounds like it might be 1920 still, possibly. There's been chatter that if Dane Whitman is in it, it'll be in the post-credit scene. But I also wonder too that if Whitman's in a post-credit scene, I wonder if his uncle is in it or another relative that we see in this film. That kind of sets up the whole, more of the Black Knight stuff in the MCU. But also too, I wonder if this, because didn't Lilith and Midnight Suns create an army of demons, like a mind control army of Lilith demons and Midnight Suns, if I remember correctly? So this sounds like a mashup of that in this Blade story, possibly with the Daywalkers.
Yeah, I mean, Lilith's kind of like the mother of demons, right? Like she's kind of like I don't want to say she creates them all, but I mean, like she's kind of like the creator or a contributor to them. Yeah, I mean, like I definitely think that that's really interesting that they would be going after Blade's daughter. I like the idea of it being set in the 1920s because, like, Blade was born in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
So, like, and I think he was born in like England or something in like the 1860s or something.
The comic version was the Blade trilogy with Snipes. He was born later on, like in the 70s, I think, or the 60s.
But the original version, like I kind of would like to see that where they do. I mean, you could do like a Blade trilogy and do like one set in the 20s, one set in the 60s, and then one set in the 2000s, or whatever. Blade's a vampire, right? Like, so he can kind of live for a really long time. So I think that would be really kind of cool, and it also kind of like flushes out that supernatural side of the MCU that we've only seen a little bit of, like through Doctor Strange mostly, but like we saw a little bit of it in Werewolf by Night, which is this kind of like monstrous kind of side that I personally would like to see more. I'd like to see more of like the Midnight Suns kind of.
I have some news on that too.
Awesome.
So yeah, they're kind of already setting the stage for that with Werewolf by Night. We and we got Man Thing. We got Elsa Bloodstone, so they're already kind of setting the stage. We have Moon Knight, we have Doctor Strange. We could
Ghost Rider coming in the future.
Ghost Rider. I believe Jennifer Kale might be in Agatha, possibly. You could have like possibly a relative or an ancestor of Echoes be in the Topaz role, possibly, or the Kushala. Is it Kushala? The Native American Social Supreme slash
the Ghost Rider.
Yeah, slash Ghost Rider. She had both roles in the comics, so you could go a lot of ways with this for Midnight Suns.
Yep, and if I remember correctly,
or even Wong could be the person instead of Doctor Strange to lead the Midnight Suns on that side of things.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think Jennifer Kale in the comics was related to Noble Kale, which was a Ghost Rider at one point. So like, you can kind of do that thing where you kind of bring Mephisto into that too, kind of connect him as kind of like a demonic entity. You don't really, I know he's not really like the devil, but you could kind of like make him a demon, kind of like, kind of bring him in, kind of maybe not connect him to Lilith, but kind of put him as like, another. Yeah. Oh my God, that would be amazing. I would love for that, because like I would love to see them just go ahead and connect him to Scarlet Witch and just go ahead and make the chaos magic kind of come from him, and be like, he was like an elder god who became like a demon basically. And I mean that kind of goes back to like, you can take that all the way back to like these ancient entities like what's his name, Khonshu and stuff like that. You can have all these different beings and stuff it's kind of like another layer to the gods that are like a lot different than like Thor per se and Odin and all that kind of stuff. So, you know.
Via Jeff Snyder, Blade could be delayed to 2026 as the Fantastic Four takes its current November 2025 slot. Now, this is because in the current time slot for Fantastic Four, in that same month, within 2 weeks, DCU has a film coming out, Superman Legacy. So I can see why they might want to change some things around to avoid competing with a DCU project, especially the first DCU project. So
yeah, and I think that's going to be interesting. That Superman Legacy is going to be kind of a make or break film for the DC movies moving forward. They got a lot of people in that movie.
Yeah,
it seems like, I mean, like at this point, it's like you basically have like Superman and everybody who's not like a main Justice League member, for the most part. And
it's like the Justice League B team.
yeah, and I mean, like, I get it. It's like Superman makes his appearance. We're gonna do this thing where it's like, hey, this really powerful entity just made his like appearance to the world, and now everybody's gonna question that, and everybody's gonna kind of come and want to know who he is and what his motives are and everything like that. So I mean, like, it kind of like, I guess, makes sense, but at the same time, I'm like, do we really need all these people in this movie? You know, like, I feel like
they're trying to change the tone of what we've seen so far, you know, from the past.
Yeah,
or was it mainly around the Justice League people, and they kind of want to get away from that to start off? I don't know.
I feel like it's like one of those things where they're going to be like, you know, there's something in this movie for everybody, and it's like, oh no, you know, like one of those, like, you know, we've seen Superman done so many times at this point. Like, it's like, you know, he's a fan favorite. I get it. Like, he's one of DC's like big three, but you know, do they really need all those people? I don't really think so. But
yeah. Back to Blade. Mahershala Ali is reportedly very happy with the script and how production is progressing.
That's good.
We have some El Muerto news. Via Variety, El Muerto is back in development without a star in the books. I don't know what Sony is doing, so I'll just keep moving along. Echo had via Forbes reportedly had a budget of $40 million. In comparison to cost, Secret Invasion was $212 million. And She-Hulk was $225 million to produce. Echo was only $40 million.
Which is crazy to me, because it's like, you know, in my personal opinion, I had some small gripes with Echo, but in comparison to Secret Invasion, Echo is light years better than Secret Invasion, in my opinion, you know. But
and the last thing, Echo Assembled is now out on Disney Plus, so you can see the making of that. Brave New World, reportedly most of the Silver Society has been scrapped, but Diamondback is still in the film. Now, this is interesting with Mark Ruffalo, because Mark Ruffalo loves to talk and possibly spoil things. So he confirmed his return as the Hulk at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. Now, get this though. Later on, Variety started doing damage control and started saying in an article that he misspoke. So I don't know if Mark Ruffalo once again let the cat out of the bag. Remember Endgame or Infinity War, everybody dies.
Everybody dies.
And then what's his name? Don Cheadle's like looking at him kind of like, what?
And Mark Ruffalo's like, I hope I'm not in trouble for that. And he's like, dude, stop. Like, you know, like, quit talking. Like, you're making it worse. Like,
so I wonder if this was another Ruffalo moment where the Hulk was going to be a surprise in the film. And
Mark Ruffalo also streamed like the first 10 minutes of Thor Ragnarok from like, I want to say like Facebook Live or something, or something like that, you know. And somebody was like, "Oh, he just like released the first 10 minutes of the movie." So, you know, I feel like he just messes up a lot sometimes and gets excited. Him and Tom Holland have kind of had that problem in the past, you know.
Something to keep an eye on with that. Armor Wars, Sam Rockwell via Tonight Show addresses if he will return as Justin Hammer in the Armor Wars project. He says, "Well, I'm waiting for the phone call." So. But there's been rumors about he's going to be in it, so we'll see.
Did he voice Justin Hammer in the What If show?
I believe, yes, he did.
Okay, cool deal.
Yes, he did.
Awesome.
Paul Bettany at MegaCon on Vision's return. A fan asked him if in any way, shape, or form will Vision return, or are you going to return the MCU? Paul Bettany said after a long pause, well, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't I? Yes, 100%. And there's rumors of Vision Quest, you know, series still He could show up in Armor Wars, you know, so we'll see. Jeremy Renner gives an update about his return to MCU via Entertainment Tonight. He said he's going to be strong enough now to return to the MCU when called. He said all those guys came to my bedside and they've been with me all through this recovery. So if they want me, they could have me. So it looks like he's ready to go. I don't know when we're going to see Hawkeye though again.
Mm-hmm.
Secret Wars, another Avengers film, Young
You
Avengers project maybe.
maybe, and you know, the other thing about that too is I'm sure he's probably going to have some time to kind of get back to where he was before the accident and everything. So he may not be as active and stuff. I know I've seen like videos of him out there, but like I don't imagine him maybe doing like fight scenes and stuff the same maybe for right away.
Yeah.
So they could always put him in, and I would love to see this just because I would like to see it, number one, but I think it's a great way to kind of like put him in and kind of like do something from the comics, but do that hover bike that he has where he's just like sitting on it and he just like pulls back and takes a shot at somebody or something.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You know, like the Hulk or something like that in a World War Hulk kind of movie or something like that would be sweet. Like, and kind of just like let him have like some special Hulk killing arrow or something that Banner gave him or something. And yeah, I mean, like you could do something like that and kind of just let him. I would love to see the hover bike in like live action that he kind of rides around on.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hulk, solo Hulk film news. Mark Ruffalo, again at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, said that he could reveal stuff about a solo Hulk film, but has been told by Feige not to when asked about the film. He says, as far as I know, I can talk more about it, but I've been told not to. So
it's just one of those things I feel like where they're just like, we're not going to let you talk about it. You know, we can't even tell Mark Ruffalo like about his own movie because we're worried he's going to spoil it, you know?
I wonder after the whole Brave New World comments, he got a phone call or a text and told him, shut up, stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
Just say no comment.
Yeah, they're probably like, you know, like, hey, just remember you replaced somebody else that was playing the Hulk, and we can replace you too,
exactly.
Know?
No one batted an eye when Norton got replaced by Ruffalo. So
yeah.
Midnight Suns news now. We talked about the Blade stuff. Via Daniel RPK, a Midnight Suns film is reportedly in the works at Marvel. Michael Giacchino, who did Work by Night, is in talks to direct. Now I say, look, let him just run with it. Yes, I know we have a different director for Blade and Agatha and that kind of stuff, but let him kind of be the James Gunn was for the cosmic stuff with Guardians. Let Giacchino be that for the dark side of the MCU. Cool. Yeah, he doesn't have to direct every film, but have him involved. Mm-hmm. You know, let him do the score, music stuff like he does. Help him make sure that the glues together for those projects. I think that'd be a great way to do it. Bring a team together of directors, but kind of have him be that lead of those team of directors.
Yeah, and for me personally, I feel like with the Doctor Strange movies, we've seen not really much of the supernatural side of the MCU. Like we have and we haven't. We've seen Dormammu, we saw Caecilius, and we've seen Scarlet Witch as the villain of the second one, right? And we haven't really seen
We've seen like Gargantos.
Yeah, Gargantos. And we saw like in What If, like Strange like taking entities, like you know, and basically like absorbing their power in them. So like it's kind of one of those things that like I think it's time to kind of start fleshing out some of these entities that are like gods, demons, beings, like entities that are like larger than just like, you know, what basically like we've seen in other movies and projects and stuff like that, and kind of flush them out and do something with them, you know. I like we talked earlier about like Chthon, Lilith, like, you know, Mephisto, you know,
Dracula himself, you know, could come.
Yeah, I mean there's tons of different like little entities that they could tell one story and then kind of do whatever. Nightmare, I know we were anticipating Nightmare for a long time in the second Doctor Strange movie, and we never got that. Love to see that in the third one, you know, that would be great. So hopefully they do something like that in the future.
Sound like someone from the chat here agreed on my let Giacchino cook the dark side of the MCU, because they constantly comment with facts. So thank you. Aliens What If. So I think last time we talked about there's going to be a Star Wars What If they're talking about doing. They're also talking about doing an Aliens What If. And also remember, Aliens is a Marvel property as well. And so a comic book series will be released in March The series will follow What If Carter Burke Had Lived, written by Paul Resner, his son Leon Resner, Adam F. Goldberg, Hans Ridenoff, and Brian Volkweis. So they're going to have an Aliens What If. So I'm looking forward to that one, so I'll read it. I still want to see, remember the comics they had of Aliens versus some of the Avengers? They had like the little couple of comics of that. I want to see that as like a spotlight project, and that'd be kind of cool. Like a animated or live action Aliens versus Avengers type thing. Predator 2, Predator news, you know, they're also a Marvel project. Prey 2 is in the works via Deadline. Dan Trachtenberg is also set to direct a new Predator movie called Badlands. The film will begin filming later this year. Badlands will be a Predator film set in the future with a female lead. So there you go.
Now, is it gonna when they say like the future, do they mean like after the Prey movie or like in the future
Prey 2?
now?
So two projects here. Prey 2. I said it's pause there. Sorry. Prey 2 is going to be the follow-ups to Prey. The Badlands is a new concept on Predator movie. So it's going to be in the future with the female lead.
Okay.
So now we get to filming updates and project stuff. Before we get on to other news outside of Marvel, Deadpool 3 is done. We know that's wrapped. Wonder Man is still filming in LA. Daredevil is still going on in New York. Thunderbolts is still late March, early April. I think that's in Atlanta. Brave New World restarts when the script is ready, possibly May of this year in Atlanta. Fantastic Four supposed to be in the summer in the UK. Blade is supposedly late 2024. Not sure on the location though. And then Avengers 5 / Kang Dynasty is tentatively late 24 this year. The movie slate though, as of 2 days ago, what's today? 4 days ago, the schedule for Marvel is this. This year, July 26th, Deadpool and Wolverine. February 14th of 2025, Brave New World for Captain America. May 2nd, Thunderbolts. July 25th, and this could change because of Superman Legacy, the Fantastic Four. November 7th, Blade. That also could move because of Fantastic Four being moved later that year. 2026 has 3 projects we don't know what they are. February 13th, July 24th, and November 6th have no projects listed. There's question marks right now because we don't know. The only confirmed movie for 2026 is May 1st, The Kang Dynasty. Now, this is where we could get like a Spider-Man. Okay, let me take a step back here. Spider-Man 4 is not included because Marvel does not control Spider-Man 4's schedule. Sony does. These are only what Marvel controls. So this is 3 movies that could be a Young Avengers project. It could be Armor Wars. That's supposed to be a movie now. Thor 5 possibly. I'm trying to think what else. Ghost Rider, Nova.
That's right, because Ghost Rider is supposed to be like a movie now, isn't it?
Midnight Suns. Doctor Strange 3. So yeah,
I know it's not going to be Eternals 2. Even though
it could be Eternals 2. You never know about that.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
And in 2027 has the lone May 7th project of Secret Wars. Now remember what I said earlier, Thunderbolts. Okay, so Thunderbolts did get a change too. They were supposed to be later in 2025. They got moved up to May 2nd. So Thunderbolts is coming out earlier than expected. Like I said before, Fantastic Four could possibly get moved to November's date for Blade because of the same window as Superman Legacy. That means Blade could get pushed also into 2026 as well in one of those slots, or they could have 5 films in 2026 maybe, or maybe something gets moved out of that one. So we'll see.
So could Brave New World actually have, I know we've said that it doesn't have Bucky in it, but could it actually have Bucky, and that's the reason why he ends up in Thunderbolts? Is because
or a post-credit scene?
Yeah. I mean, maybe something happens, and then he kind of like veers off, and then ends up with the Thunderbolts and everything like that. Like,
could happen.
I know that they've already talked about like he's supposed to not be in that movie, but I mean he could be in it for 5 minutes or something, kind of pop in and pop right back out, and who knows.
Star Wars has 2 films in 2026. One which will be Mando and Grogu movie. Star Wars: The Acolyte via Collider. That's going to come out in 2024, and for the summer for that movie. Mace Windu via Empire Magazine. Samuel L. Jackson wants a Mace Windu Disney Plus series as he claims the character is not dead.
Hmm.
I mean, all we saw was his hand get cut off and him getting thrown off the building. You know, they could. We've seen what was it? Anakin do the same thing and lands in a speed racer or one of those, you know, with Obi-Wan. So we've seen that where they can survive or he slid down somewhere or that kind of stuff, you know. So that'd be kind of cool to see a Disney Plus series with Mace Windu.
Mm-hmm.
Angela Bassett. Go ahead.
I guess they would de-age. What's his name?
Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson.
So what if it's a flashback to him surviving, but we see him in modern times as an old Jedi that no one knows he's still out there.
Mm-hmm. That'd be really cool.
You know, depending on what his actual species is, he could age slower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or is this, you know, after he escaped, we saw what happened with him. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Angela Bassett via Daniel RPK has she's reportedly met with Lucasfilms for a role in a Star Wars project. So I'd love to see that.
I love Angela Bassett. She's a phenomenal actress. My favorite role for her is an American Horror Stories role, and she plays the Voodoo Queen. And,
I haven't seen that.
So dude, she is amazing as the Voodoo Queen. And yeah, I mean, like, I feel like some of what she did as the Queen of Wakanda was kind of channeled as kind of like she's got that like very powerful presence as the Voodoo Queen and everything like that. She is one of like the greatest actresses in American Horror Stories, I think, in my opinion.
She has range in general in what all the films that she's been in. So
yeah, I mean, I've seen her. I can't really think of a lot that she's been in, but like I've watched her in so many seasons of American Horror Story, and I love her. Like, she always kills every role that she plays. You know,
she played. She was in Malcolm X with Denzel Washington. She played the wife Malcolm X in the movie. She was in Boys in the Hood. She was Trey's mother, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character in the movie. She's been in so many great stuff, though. I can't think of it all. She's currently in 911 TV series right now. Yeah. But she's been in a lot of good films, though. I just can't remember everything on top of my head, though. But yeah, I know that she was great in Malcolm X. I'm trying to think. Besides playing the Queen of Wakanda, I'm going blank now. I know I've seen plenty of movies with her in it. I just can't think of it right now. I gotta look this up now because it's gonna bother me. Let me pull this up real quick because she's played a lot of great roles.
Well, even as like the Queen of Wakanda, like I think that was like such an excellent casting for her. Like she really did a great job with that, and being like, you know, the Black Panther's mother and everything like that. That was something. Like when she died in that Wakanda Forever movie, like I was so heartbroken. I was not expecting that to happen, you know.
I can't believe she's 65. She's not like 65 years old. She looks great.
No, I was actually about to say that too. Like,
yeah.
Like she seems like she's like maybe in her 40s or something. Like, you know, like she looks so young.
So I can't believe I forgot this movie. She played Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It. Waiting to Exhale, another one she was in. I'm trying to think. She was in Green Lantern.
Yeah, she played Amanda Waller, I think, in Green Lantern. Which
she did? Okay.
I think so. If I remember,
she was in the Whitney film in 2015. Aquila and the Bee. She was in that with Lawrence Fishburne, and also what's the girl that people keep talking about playing Rogue in the MCU?
I know what you're talking about.
What's her name? I gotta go back and look at the cast now. She was in that movie with her. Keke Palmer.
Yep.
She was in the movie with her. Let me see. Oh yeah, Jump in the Broom was one. That's a good movie. Trying to think what else we have on here. She's done some voice acting to animated movies that can't talk. Mr. 3000, The Rosa Parks Story, Notorious. Yeah, she's been in a lot of stuff. So
I wish they would have kept her as Amanda Waller throughout the DC.
Yeah.
Movies and stuff like that. And I know that Green Lantern movie was awful, but you know, it's like I liked her as I think she's just such a great actress, and I feel like, you know, she would have killed that role for a lot of movies rather than who they ended up going with. But
well, the actress they picked, I'm gonna look at her name. She's a really good actress too, as well. I'm going to look at her name too. She was in The Help. what is her name? I'm going blank today on names. I'm sorry. Just my head's all slow with this cold getting over. So let's move on. Superman Legacy. We now have Supergirl's actor Millie Alcock will be the DCU Supergirl. So
Mm-hmm.
she'll be introduced in Superman Legacy, and then she'll headline her own Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie.
Hmm.
James Gunn confirms that Superman Legacy will also be shot in IMAX. So, the Penguin, Jared Abramson will play the Changeling in the Penguin. He will have a reoccurring role opposite of Colin Farrell. The Penguin has wrapped filming. So,
Okay. That's for season 1.
yep.
Okay.
Blue Beetle via Screenrant. Zolo Mariduna says that he will return as Blue Beetle in James Gunn's DCU. Peacemaker, James Gunn said he's finished writing the finale for season 2. Deathstroke series, Joe Manganiello pitched a Deathstroke origin series on Max via comicbook.com. He says it would have its own tone, or he did pitch. It would have its own tone and its own place with the universe. I think it'd be very fun and totally very unique. I wish they would kind of build on that from what movie was that? That was Superman vs. Batman. We saw him in on the boat with Lex Luthor at the end.
Oh,
I think that was
Batman versus Superman movie. Is that what
yeah.
that was?
He's at the very end on the boat.
Yeah, let me look that. I just want to confirm that. But yeah, I like Deathstroke.
Yeah.
I think that yeah, and he was pretty good Deathstroke as well, in my opinion. I think he was like rumored to be in like something like the Justice League or something at one time or something like that.
And then they kind of pulled it.
Yeah, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just look that up.
While you're looking, I'm gonna continue on with the DC news. Christopher Reeve Superman via Deadline. Warner Brothers is the front runner to acquire Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, for $15 million. The documentary follows how Christopher Reeve found strength and purpose through activism after he was paralyzed in an equestrian accident. So, Matthew Vaughn, who also did the X-Men movies we talked about earlier, he had a Superman project he's talked about via Post-Cred Pod. He's interested in Superman Red Sun adaptation with Henry Cavill back as Superman. So, Book of Eli. The movie with Denzel Washington, we find out the cliffhanger in the end, he's blind the whole film. They're talking about making a sequel to it. Oh, I'm sorry, a prequel. John Boyega will star in the prequel series, The Book of Eli. So it's a series, and it's a prequel to the movie.
Okay.
He'll play a young Eli, and the series takes place 30 years before the film.
Cool.
So
that's awesome. I like that movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. The Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler project. Via Deadline, Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan teaming up for a vampire pick. Sony, Warner Brothers, and Universal are still battling out for a deal which would allow Coogler to start the production this summer. $90 million budget and discussion of potential co-ownership of the IP. Then later on, via the Hollywood Reporter, it was reported that Warner Brothers had landed the project. The original concept is being kept secret, but source says it's got the undead plus 1930s setting plus anime influences. Excuse me. Michael B. Jordan will star as twins in Ryan Coogler's 1930s era vampire movie. Now, at first, I thought they were going to do a Blackula project. You know, I still want them to do a spin on the Blackula project with them doing this, but twins will be cool. You know, and then putting these influences in it. I love to see that kind of stuff. But this sounds like an original story, because if they're talking about being co-ownership of the IP, I don't think it's any kind of tie to that. But I love the Blackula film, so I was hoping for that.
So just kind of looping back to Deathstroke. So it looks like he was, I guess, in the Justice League movie and in the Zack Snyder's Justice League, but it was like a post-credit scene.
Oh, okay.
And apparently, I guess this is where I'm getting it confused. I guess Ben Affleck, like, at one time released like some test footage of like him and Deathstroke fighting, like Batman and Deathstroke, I guess. And I guess he did that like years ago, and I guess nothing just ever happened with it or anything like that. So I guess that's where I was getting that confused. So I apologize about that.
Well, if they can't get him back as Deathstroke in the DCU, get him some role in the MCU. Yes, I know he was Flash Thompson back in the day, but bring him in another role. He also, yeah, he's a big dude, right? Hercules. If they don't get Goldstein back, he could play Hercules. He could play another of the Pantheon of gods. He could play. I'm trying to think who else he could play if they brought him into now. He could play some kind of villain. What else could he play in the MCU if they brought him over?
I don't know, but whenever I hear Goldstein's name, I just think of that scene from Iron Man 2 where he goes, "Goldstein, give me a fat beat to beat my buddy's ass to."
Oh yeah, when he's drunk dancing to Tupac and drinking the champagne,
watermelons.
Yeah, Gallagher.
Yeah. So.
Where was I? Oh, Percy Jackson has been renewed for a second season on Disney Plus. Karate Kid news. American-born Chinese actor Ben Wang will be the new Karate Kid. He will join Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio. Film is slated for a release this year, December 13th. Now, if they're just now naming who the new Karate Kid is, have they started filming or doing anything yet? It's February. I mean, you could probably have to be done with production probably, at least by summer, so they can do post-production. Yeah. And then at least by summer, you want to get a trailer out to start getting, at least by the end of the summer, get a trailer out. Yeah, and then December,
that good timeline, does it?
Yeah, a very fast timeline. I don't know if this movie's going to make December 13th release, if they're just now getting their Karate Kid.
I mean, the other thing about that is like, does that movie really need, like, I mean, other than like fight choreography, you don't really need a lot of special effects and stuff like that. It's just some like editing and stuff like that. So maybe that'll help move this movie along through production and everything like that. But I don't know.
And this almost sounds like, is this like a continuation of the story that Jackie Chan had with Will Smith's son? And I wonder, because Jackie Chan was Mr. Han, he was not Mr. Miyagi. So he was Mr. Han in that movie, and you got Ralph Macchio, returning as Daniel Russo in this film. So it's like, are they kind of tying the two universes together now in this film? Will this have any tie-ins to Cobra Kai?
Karate Kid multiverse stuff.
Yeah. And will this have any tie to Cobra Kai at all? It'd be kind of cool because they're doing the new season of Cobra Kai now. It's already filming. That tournament they're going to for this new season, what if they came across Mr. Han and this kid in like the end of this series, and that's how that goes into the movie, depending on when Cobra Kai is released for the new season. I don't know. The last thing, and we had a long episode tonight. We had a lot of news, a lot of catch up to do. Probably the longest episode in a while, but we're at the last bit of the news. Masters of the Universe movie. But wait a minute. It's going to be on Amazon with MGM. They might have found its director, and it's not Kevin Smith, who does the animated series on Netflix. Travis Knight, who did Kubo and Bumblebee, is in final negotiations to direct. So, and this is a live action film, which we have not had since the Dolph Lundgren days. With they had Skeletor, Evil-Lyn, Beastman. Who's the Aqua dude? I can't remember his name.
I'm not a big Masters of the Universe fan. So.
And they had Grildor as Little Magician in there, Man at Arms, Tila. Yeah. So
I just know that anytime you put Kevin Smith in something like as steering the ship, it's like, oh no, it's I sort of like some of his takes on stuff, but I don't understand why he makes movies in projects the way that he does.
Wasn't he the one responsible for the whole Spider-Man Nicolas Cage or Superman Nicolas Cage fighting the giant spider? Wasn't that part of his thing?
So I supposedly, if I remember correctly, the way that story goes was he was going to make that movie, and then they were like, hey, we're going to basically ask you to do a certain fight scene, and we're going to ask you to put Superman fighting a giant spider in, and Kevin Smith, I think he was like okay, I'll do that, but then they ended up going a different direction with that, and Superman ended up not fighting the giant spider. But then of course in the Flash movie all these years later that just came out, they kind of CGI'd Nicolas Cage as Superman in fighting a giant spider. So it's we somehow made our way back to that one thing that nobody really wanted again somehow, but okay. but yeah, it is what it is. So.
Yeah, I liked him in Mallrats and the whole Jay Silent Bob stuff that he did. I thought he's good with that. I'm not the biggest fan of his takes. The Masters of the Universe Revelation, there's some good, there's some bad to it. There's a new season coming out. I only watched the first season, I think, and I kind of stopped. It didn't really keep me like interested in it. I'll probably go back and watch it because I like He-Man stuff. So I'll probably go back and watch it. But I am interested in seeing what they do for a new live action film. Now, is Joe Manganiello too old to play He-Man? Prince Adam. No, actually,
Probably.
He probably. Put the little blonde hair on him. He's too old.
Put a little blonde hair on him.
the bowl cut blonde hair. Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be funny. Give him that would be terrible. I don't know.
He's got the build for it.
He does. I don't know. Like that'd be really interesting.
Watch it be The Rock.
The Rock. Oh man, I hope not. But The Rock's getting kind of old to be honest.
Yeah.
So, that would be probably.
Have you seen the Terry Crews cosplay of him, He-Man, with the blonde hair? Because Terry Crews is a big fella himself. There's I don't know if it was cosplay or he did it for a costume or something, but I'll just show you. There's pics of Terry Crews as He-Man. He has little blonde hair. He has the whole chest piece on. Yeah.
I bet that's funny.
Yeah. But that's all we got for today. I think we'll be back next week, back on a regular schedule. The past couple weeks we had some stuff busy. And Super Bowl happened. Plus with the local team here, I was banned from doing anything but watching the game with my wife. So yeah, next week we should be back regular schedule. Hopefully Andy will be able to join us. If not, I know Andy's got some stuff going on right now. He's busy. We might pull some guest host in to come on with us. But we'll see. Any last words before we sign out today, Alex?
Nope. I am looking forward to Deadpool 3, X-Men 97. I know we talked about those at the beginning, but I know Deadpool 3 is not coming out until July 26th, right? And that'll probably be here before we know it at this rate, to be honest. I feel like, this year's already flying by, so can't wait for that.
I'm looking forward to Godzilla X Kong. It was pretty cool. We kind of have the Avengers Assemble moment in the running, but also too, I thought the trailer was interesting because they put the little assistance thing, almost like a Hulkbuster fist, on Kong in this film. It's also good to see that we have continuation of characters like Rebecca. What's her name? I can't remember her last name. She was in Iron Man 3. She was Maya Hansen. She's back with little girl. The little girl's older now. The one guy that plays what's his name from the Eternals, he could do the technology stuff.
Phastos.
Phastos, his actor, I believe he's in this movie as well. He was the conspiracy theorist guy in the last film, so he's back. It looks like we see the little girl's tribe of people. They kind of fix the stuff going into their realm again. I'm kind of interested to see the baby Godzilla, I think, or comes out, I think possibly, or an egg or something I saw or read. I love the Monsterverse. If you haven't seen Monarch Legacy of Monsters, watch it. It's great. Get a trial to Apple TV Plus. Watch it. It's really good. That's all tied into the Monsterverse stuff for that. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's coming out here. What's the release date for that one? Last thing before we go here. Godzilla X Kong. When is that coming out? March 27th. March 27th internationally and the 29th in the US. So next month, right around the corner. Looking forward to that. There's the little orange Kong looking guy. I'm not sure where that comes from. And then the new guy that comes out. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be another fun one. And I'm kind of sad that we don't get more Skarsgård. He was in the last film. That he's gone. I thought he was, he kind of was up with him in the end of that. So, and I don't think we're going to get Kyle Chandler or Millie Bobby Brown back in this film.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I hope we get the kid that played Russell in Deadpool 2. He was in the last film. I wonder if we get him back at all as well.
Yeah, Fire Fist.
Yeah, Fire Fist. So yeah, but looking forward to it. We should get back next week. Not sure what the topic will be. We'll figure that out here pretty soon because it's kind of that lull and stuff right now, unless we talk about a comic book run or we watch something, But yeah. Anywho, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.
See you guys.